with a safety briefing. Public hearing, public meeting, or meeting at MassDOT. We start with a safety briefing. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I want you to keep in mind. First, we know no fire alarms that are scheduled for today as tests. So if you hear a fire alarm, heed its call and walk out of that exit, down the stairs, and out of the building. If you are unable to walk down those stairs, find an elevator and someone will come and get you. The AED machine device is at the security desk downstairs. Anybody here AED trained? Of course, when you wait by the elevator, don't use the elevator. And again, someone will come to get you. Anybody want to volunteer to do a head count? Thank you, Darren. Anybody want to volunteer to call 911? Thank you, Darren. Okay. So now we're ready to get started. I have a number of colleagues with me who are from MassDOT and the RMV, and if you could raise your hand so that the people in the audience who are not with MassDOT or the RMV know who they are. Good. So now we're ready to get started. My name is Dana Levinson. I'm the Chief Financial Officer and Assistant Secretary of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. Register of Motor Vehicles Celia Blue asked that I lead tonight's session on her behalf. It's never a good time to tell your customers that your prices are going up, even when the reasons are valid. By law, however, we're required to do exactly that. When state fees are planned to be raised, the Secretary of State requires us to hold a public hearing, which takes place Thursday in Boston. This is a public meeting tonight. Another public meeting is also taking place in Boston on Thursday as well, and next week on the 27th in Springfield. The purpose of this meeting is not just to inform, but it's also to seek your comments. So as soon as I finish mine, we want to hear yours. You also have the ability to send us an email with your comments to William McVeigh at dot.state.ma.us. We'll put that up on the screen momentarily. Additionally, there are scribes present in this room to take down your comments. The sum and substance of the RMV fee increase, which will take place on July 1st, is a $10 increase to $60 paid every 2 years to renew your car registration. The last time this fee was increased was in 2009. A $6 increase in the annual inspection fee to $35. This fee was last raised in 1999. And a $15 increase for the road test to $35. There's no increase in the fee to renew your license. The increases are taking place for the following reasons. First, the state legislature has mandated that MassDOT no longer pay for certain expenses from borrowed money, what we call the proceeds raised from capital bond issuance. This is a smart move because when we pay for those expenses, salaries, rents, and utilities, we incur a finance charge when we charge the capital account for these expenses. This is akin to buying your weekly groceries on a credit card and paying for them over time. However, if we no longer are paying for these expenses from capital, and again, the state legislature has mandated that we do not, and indeed move those expenses onto the operating account, we need operating revenues to cover these expenses. The projected shortfall in the operating account when these expenses move over from capital is approximately $55 million. Raising these RMV fees, as we described, generates money that covers these new operating expenses sufficiently. Additionally, the cost of service delivery of RMV products continues to go up. However, the service delivery of these products all have significant customer benefits and is the result of reform before revenue. For example, the ability to do most transactions online. I just renewed my own registration online. It took about 6 minutes with no trip to the RMV. The ability to do the most common transactions at certain local AAA branches, a very successful program which is being expanded. Telephony advances such as adding the virtual hold feature so that the RMV will call you back when an agent is free and you don't have to wait on hold. We are giving back our customers their time. The reinstatement of mailing you a birthday card to remind you to renew your license. Increasing the RMV staff with customer service representatives and summer interns at the branches so as to bring down your wait times if indeed you do need to visit the RMV. All of these things cost money. And last, the overhaul of the ALARS system. The ALARS system, ALARS stands for Automatic License and Registration System. This is a project costing upwards of $100 million and which is absolutely necessary for the purpose of providing modern service to our customers. As some of you may know, the current system, the current ALARS system is COBOL-based. In other words, a system from the early 1980s, which must and is being in the process of being replaced. I haven't really used the PowerPoint chart, but I do want to point out something on it in a moment. Because we want to ask you to consider that once raised, our fees still will be competitive when compared to other states, both in New England and outside. So here is where we are currently. Each one of those circles represents a different state. The one in red at the bottom is the $25 per year fee. $50 every 2 years, which we are raising to $60 as compared to New England states, as well as others such as Virginia, Delaware, as well as others. Here's that same chart after it goes to $30 per year, so it goes to $60. We are still among the lowest states in the country on a per year basis for what we charge for a registration. We think that is important. As I said earlier, no one likes to deliver the bad news. However, we want to hear your comments, all of which we will consider and take into account before the fee increases go into effect on July 1st. And now we want to hear what you have to say. So we're going to start with number one. We gave out tickets. Who is number one? If you wouldn't mind, step up to the mic and please introduce yourself.
Al Hoffman.
I actually anticipated it being a little bit more of a dog and pony show for questions, but I'll start off now. My concern is Massachusetts expenditures overall. Now, I understand the RMV is one of the larger departments for bringing money in. And it's also one of the easier ones because they have what you call customers kind of at a disadvantage. I wouldn't call them customers. I think customers are people who go to buy something they want. I don't want to pay $40 for a moped registration. I don't want to have to register a small aluminum rowboat simply because I have an electric motor on it. And of course we've had the upsell on that since it started years ago with registering just larger gasoline motors, and they kept dropping the horsepower, and then finally they made even electric ones. Next thing you know, they'll be having us register and pay a tax on ores. So I think that the expenditures are way out of line, particularly with all the advantages that we have today with computers that are such a cost-saving, effective method of reducing costs, and yet the Registry of Motor Vehicles continues to spend millions of dollars. I think that we have a state here where we have a problem. The government, the state government has found that it has some kind of a surplus from the tax revenue this year. And of course, they can't have that because they want to raise taxes. So they're trying to find plenty of ways to spend more money than is needed. For example, the other day in Ocam, I came out of the woods after fishing and I saw a couple of guys surveying along Route 122. I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, we're surveying because we're going to redo the road. It's going to be scratched and resurfaced." I said, "This road doesn't need it. It's one of the better ones in the whole region." And the surveyor said, "I agree with you. We just told you what we're doing." So we got Massachusetts trying to spend money on things that it doesn't need even. And I think that this increase in the Registry of Motor Vehicle fees is just another way to kind of dodge things around and keep the pressure on for higher taxes. Now, what do I mean? Let me give you 4 facts. and then I'll update one of them. Massachusetts has about 6.5 million residents. The state budget was $32 billion. $32 billion for 6.5 million residents. Just one other simple example, the state of Pennsylvania has about 12 million residents and had a state budget of $28 billion. Now we hear all this talk about Massachusetts considering a budget for $36 billion, even though we have a $600 to $1 billion surplus. And then we have a governor who wants to start taxing our candy and our soft drinks. And then we have a governor who said, if we don't cut back the sales tax, we can prevent your real estate taxes from going up. We're getting the same lies from the state government, and they're filtering it on down through every department, and every department is out pushing the same thing, higher fees, higher taxes. And whenever there has been a reduction or a hold-up in taxes, it's simply been because fees were doubled or tripled. For example, the Second Amendment protects our right to own firearms. But in this state, you have to pay $100 and get fingerprinted, exercise your right to own a firearm. And it certainly doesn't cost that much. So I see the same thing here, in spite of your chart that makes it look nice and bubbly and good. This is just another dog and pony show for spending more of the taxpayers' money and trying to squeeze more out of us. And there's really no excuse for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 3.
Good evening. My name is Tina Hood, and I concur with everything the gentleman said. This is just absolutely asinine. Lincoln freed the slaves, but he really didn't, because we're slaves to the government. It's absolutely outrageous. You're trying to justify spending more money and trying to make it look pretty like we're morons. We're not. We work hard for our money. We need to keep it. We work for different companies that are doing more with less, but you're doing less with more. It doesn't make sense. Stop spending money. Make cuts. It's absurd. You should be able to do the majority of registry business on the internet. You're getting rid of toll takers and going to have fast lane all over the place. Well, good. Get rid of RMV workers, okay? Get rid of your job. What do you do exactly?
I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Maxwell.
Okay. And what do you spend money?
I spend money and I
So you probably don't need a job because you're spending our money. We need someone that needs to save our money. Okay? Your job should be in the chopping block unless you're going to turn around and start saving our money.
We do try to save as much money as we
Oh, you are
can.
spending money, and you can put up all this beautiful PowerPoint stuff that it just is absolutely ridiculous. Okay? Stop spending money. This economy stinks. Our water bills are going up because someone thinks that we're poisoning the Blackstone River when the water coming out of the water treatment plant is drinkable. It's potable water. But yet, however many thousands of miles downstream, oh well, you know what? It's dirty, so Worcester residents get to pay more for that. Okay, my property taxes are up. Every time I turn around, every government agency wants more money out of me. Okay? Enough is enough. Make cuts. Make cuts. Learn how to save money. Okay?
Thank you. Number 4.
My name is Christopher Maynard, and I'm with the Meat and Potatoes Show Conservative Media Network. And my question is why can't we just convert to a one-time fee to the purchase of a vehicle? People buy cars all the time, new cars, used stock cars, cars are getting transferred. You guys take in license fees, you take in, the towns take in excise taxes every year, and the inspection sticker is nothing more than a violation of property rights. Fees in Massachusetts are a surtax. And our revenue stream this year came in at a surplus. Now we know all the fees you're going to propose here won't go one lick of dimes to road improvements, road infrastructure, but it'll cover the pensions and the union shortfalls that this state has created for itself. Tell us where the money is going. Why can't we just have a one-time fee? And where can we expect a decrease somewhere in fees?
Thank you. Number 5. Number 6.
I think I'll get 6. Is it 6 or 9?
Go for 6. It can be 6.
Ken Mandiel's coming up.
First off, I want to compliment the RMV. We've obviously going to take some heat here today, but I have seen improvements. The RMV is the kind of an agency that could not have had a worse reputation. So the fact that I can now renew online really makes life easier. The question is, should I even have to do that? As the previous speaker said, why not have a one-time registration fee? These fees are going up for the purpose of collecting more fees. That's the only purpose. It's paying, the increase is to pay the cost of collecting the fees. That's all it is. Because none of these fees are going to improve the quality of our roads. They're not going to our local cities and towns so they can fill the potholes. As far as comparing to other states, one state, I looked it up, and you're right, California is incredible. I think it was a couple $100 every other year. But you didn't put Arizona up where it only cost $8 to renew a registration. There are plenty of other states. You cherry pick some states, but there are many others that are down at the bottom. Inspection stickers. Most states don't even inspect cars. I kind of appreciate the fact that the quality of cars in Massachusetts tends to be good. I've been to other states, and I see what happens when people are allowed to drive cars that shouldn't be on the road. But there's no reason for it to be annually. Most cars probably don't need to be inspected in the first 5 or 6 years to begin with. The federal emissions regulations don't allow the automakers to sell cars that don't meet the emission standards. So there's really no reason to have that inspected. I would guess that that's something that the auto dealers could take care of for free as part of the car checkup. But when you look at this chart, most states don't do inspection stickers. The ones that do emissions, they do it only for certain most of them are metropolitan areas. Most of the ones that do it, they only do it every other year. There's really no reason to be doing these inspections every year. Now that's $30 now per year. You're going to add $35 a year for the inspection sticker. It's completely unnecessary. I would go to every other year on the or every third year, exempt cars for the first 5 and 6 years on safety and emissions. If somebody has a tail light out, let them take the risk of getting a ticket for it. I have a couple other things to say. I can't remember what else I had to say, but as far as I can see, the only reason for these increases is to pay for people to collect fees. What we need is more, we need our roads repaired, and that's not happening. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes, I believe, unless someone has number 7. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I think I'm number 10. I just grabbed a high number. My name is Josh Ostroff. I work for an organization called Transportation for Massachusetts. We're a statewide coalition supporting reform and investment in transportation I live in Natick, where I'm also a member of the Board of Selectmen as a volunteer. And I wanted to just offer some comments about the fee increase for your benefit and for that of members of the public that are here. These fee increases are the result of legislation passed in 2013 by the legislature and ultimately passed into law. And one of the things that the legislation required is that Mass DOT, newly reformed Mass DOT with all agencies under one umbrella, would need to generate more revenue from its own sources, such as fare increases, potentially tolls, selling advertising if possible, and in this case, fees. But all of the funds raised in that legislation are going towards transportation improvements, and they will support the state's capital investment plan, which was just published over the winter and will soon be finalized, and that includes investments throughout the Commonwealth.
In all modes of transportation.
In all modes, that's correct. So what I wanted just to point out is that the legislature required MBT, Mass DOT, and the MBTA to have an increasingly high percentage of these revenue from their own budgets, such as fees and fares, and that goes up over time. So what I think is important for folks to understand is that this money does go to transportation, just as the gas tax does. This also is going towards transportation. It's going to provide about $600 million in total of new revenue. But the reality is that that is only about half of what has been estimated going back over a decade is really needed to improve and modernize our transportation network. That the money that we spend on infrastructure helps support jobs, not just creating jobs, but it encourages employers to locate in Massachusetts. In my community, we don't have any major business expansion that does not also require bringing, improving our roadway and transportation network. There's very few opportunities within the DOT to increase revenue. These fees were identified as the ones that would have a small impact on the fewest number of people and still be competitive and reasonable and affordable, even though nobody likes them. So while my organization does not endorse these fees, we understand the need for them in order to invest in transportation. We do recognize that fee increases could have a financial impact on some families, but if we don't fix our roads and keep our bridges safe, then we risk much more than $5 or $10 a year annual increase. So just going back for over a decade, there have been many reports that indicate that the Commonwealth needs about $20 billion of investment just to get things into a state of good repair.
That's correct.
And more revenue may actually be needed in order to be competitive and to attract business that the Commonwealth needs to thrive. So while this is not popular, it's necessary, it's responsible, and I think Mass DOT is doing the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. If there are no other comments, then let me hold them out there in case you didn't get a number but still want to speak. You're more than welcome to come up to the microphone. My colleagues and I will be sticking around to talk with you if you'd like to get clarification. If you want to give us other ideas, we're glad to listen. Yes, ma'am.
He said that the law had already been passed in 2013. So you're having this meeting for us, but this is already a done deal. Is that correct?
No,
That's what he just said.
that's not what he just said.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry if what I said was not clear or if I didn't make myself clear. The legislature has required Mass DOT to generate its own revenue in order and to spend the money on transportation. The legislature didn't say, go raise R&B fees. The legislature said to Mass DOT, raise revenue. And they can't cut enough, they can't reform enough to get to the level of investment that they need here. So in order to, as Mr. Levinson said, in order to stop paying for salaries on a credit card, which is what used to be the case, and pay for that as we go, and in order to spend the money on local roads and transportation and transit systems, they need to raise their own revenue. They need to have an increasingly high share of their budget paid for through their own sources of revenue. So they identify these fees, but the law also requires that there be a public hearing. So it is a done deal that they need to raise the revenue, but the specific fees that were being proposed are up for debate. I personally don't expect them to change, but does that make sense? Do you understand?
Oh, yes, it does.
Okay.
Actually, no, it doesn't make any sense. Then why are we having these meetings then? If you've already decided de facto by fiat, then what's the point of these meetings?
The law requires it.
Why don't you
The
go?
law requires this meeting that we inform, that's a law that's on the books that is the responsibility of the Secretary of State. So
But if you guys go ahead and pass these things anyway, say, oh, whatever, we're just gonna pass them, and then we'll have a meeting just to cover our, what's on the law, it's kind of a moot point.
I have two questions, well, let me do one question. Is $55 million being raised by these fees?
That's correct.
How much of that is going to fix our roads?
We spend approximately $1.4 billion per year on capital assets, including fixing roads. In fact, we just put forth a program for all 351 towns and cities across the Commonwealth for an additional $30 million. It's not a whole lot of money, but that's something that we just put forward. There's $200 million a year that goes to Chapter 90 expenditures by the cities and towns on local roads. There is a huge program called the Accelerated Bridge Program. So, and that's $3 billion to bring down the level of structurally deficient bridges, and we've been extraordinarily successful with it, and we've been written up in the national media about just how critical this program is. This money that we raise continues to fund programs such as those.
I thought the gas tax increase was to pay for the roads and the bridges, and
There are different sources of revenue. Yes, and this will be the last question.
So, the first thing is, you're saying that you need the money to pay salaries. And in the real world, when people can't pay salaries, they lay people off. That's number one, okay? That's your first problem right there, okay? Second problem, you just said that you had all the money in one pot when he asked what was used to actually pay for the roads, okay? But you've got everything all together, and then at the end you said about $30 million. Well, I got a problem with that, okay? You're getting all these different fees. There's the gas tax. There's all these different monies that keep coming in, but yet for some reason they don't go where they're supposed to go.
Never go.
So our roads look like crap. I'm constantly having to get my car fixed. Meanwhile, I have to commute to work and pay a ton of money in gas tax, and you want to raise these fees on top of it. You people do not know how to manage money correctly. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And then you talk about, oh, we were written up in the national news because of our bridge program. I've seen some of the bridges that are being worked on around here. They're getting a paint job.
Yeah.
They're getting a paint job. That's fixing them?
The ones on 290 get painted like every 5 or 6 years. I grew up here. I grew up here. Every year, 290 gets repaved. It's probably the most paved highway I've ever seen in the state.
Yeah.
I grew up here.
The roads aren't
Don't tell us
being
that we're,
properly.
don't know what we're talking about. We all grew up here. We see it every 4 or 5 years. It's the same thing.
It is absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand why a road can't last through the winter. I don't understand that. I don't understand how a road gets paved and then starts crumbling within 6 months. Okay? That means to me that you, because you did say that you're in charge of the money, are not managing the money properly. Okay? So, and now you're asking for more money to mismanage again. I'm sorry. That makes no sense whatsoever. It's not logical.
Thank you. And with that, again, my mascot and R&D colleagues would like to stick around. If you want to have a further discussion about this, we'd actually like to hear more what you have to say. But as far as the public presentation is concerned, that's coming to a close. Thank you very much for spending time with us. Appreciate you coming out.
What an absolute travesty.
Those 25,000 will be like, we want another 25,000 because they can.
And let's not call it revenue. Let's call it what it is. It's taxes. There's no such thing. Revenue. It's taxes.
All fees calling taxes out revenue. It's all in the community pot, and we're going to draw from that and do whatever we please with your money. No. Accountability for him. She's saying, axe your job. There are valid reasons to axe a lot of jobs. With the registration online, why in Massachusetts do you have to pay, in New Hampshire you have to pay your excise tax in town. Where you pick up, you go to the town hall, register your car within the town, and you pay your excise tax right there. Ahead of the year. You register for a year, and you get a letter in the mail, You come back into the town hall, screw this having to go to the DMV. There's only 3 DMV units in the entire state of New Hampshire. Of course, there's only 1.5 million people out there, but you don't have to insure your car. If you're poor and you really can't afford to pay these fees for your insurance, you're not, unless you have already had convicted of DWI, you don't have to insure your.
No, they don't. They link it all.
And that way forever. The state of New Hampshire, the legislature, the Senate, the representatives in the state legislature get $100 a year honorarium. The senators get $400 a year, and the only 2 paid people in government are there's no lieutenant governor. The only 2 paid people in government are in that branch of government, the executive branch of government, the attorney general, and the governor. That's it. Those are the only 2 people that the taxes have to pay for. If Massachusetts were to adopt something like that, they'd wipe out billions of dollars of revenue.
I believe that people in Massachusetts, they just love taxes. They love it, especially when it's from you and I.
Because they were convinced long ago that right after World War II, it's your patriotic duty to pay taxes. No. It's all of our founding fathers, right down into Massachusetts, they didn't get paid. They had their own businesses, their own farms and plantations and all the rest of that stuff. And then that's where their money came from. George Washington got paid $25,000 a year as president. But he didn't even need that. He was already rich on his own, and he knew it. And it didn't raise it for another like 8 presidents. Then it went to $50,000 a year, and then it went to $75,000 immediately, and then it went up over 100 around the time Wilson was in office. And Wilson gave us the Fed, and they're controlling all the money, and it's not even in the country. Especially you. I mean, it's just like, this state, the media.
I'm telling you, there's media. What do you think the ratio is of R&B workers to actual citizens? 3 to 1 here?
I'm sorry, what?
What's the ratio of R&B workers to actual citizens?
Here.
2 to
Here?
3 to 1.
Right here?
Right here, right now. Because
Really, all these guys down here?
On that one, the majority of these people are actually R&B workers. Because
All of these people are R&B workers.
Yes, when we first came in, he said to raise your hand.
I missed that. I was filming him. I didn't see that.
If you work for the R&B, so that the people could recognize who the R&B workers were. They're all R&B workers.
All right, let's just pan this. Look at this. Look at this. Everybody here. Us.
Yes.
People behind us.
Yes.
They're all R&B.
Yes.
All of them. Right in front. Gentleman here, probably sitting right in front of us here. R&B. So this is it. This is what I was talking about in my question, that, you know, to pay the exorbitant pensions and the salaries of these people.
Yes.
I bet you most of the people here are $100,000 or more a year.
Yeah.
Easily.
Easily. Easily.
And then, of course, they rented this room. They have this wonderful, expensive PowerPoint that they put together.
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's insanity. It is absolutely insanity.